Everybody, this is Alisha here at Cosmic Gateway. I wanted to create and share with you a little bit about my experience over the weekend, but also a combination of a few experiences that I've gone through in the weeks leading up to what I went through over the weekend, which I can only describe as a precursor or preparation for the event. I know that the event is a massive buzzword at the moment, and I have to say it's absolutely one of my all-time favorite topics. Earth's Ascension, 5D, the event, I truly believe within every cell of my being that that's why I came here. And probably if you're watching this video, you probably have that deep resonance too of that's why you came here, to go through this amazing transformation. So I wanted to share with you a little bit about what I have been going through, in hopes that it might help shine some light if you've been having similar experiences or maybe go through something similar, just to put some context around it and to ease any fears that you might have. This is certainly nothing to fear. This is probably one of the most amazing times for humanity. And just to put it in my own perspective and hopefully shed a little bit of light for you if you're going through some of these very intense energy waves. So just to recap, if you don't know or you haven't heard about the event or Ascension or 5D, basically what we're talking about is very high frequency energy hitting the earth and transforming, all beings that live on earth and earth herself. Gaia's going through her own, Mother Earth is going through her own ascension process. And as that evolves, we're all interlinked. So as we go and deepen into our own personal ascension, it affects the planet. And as the planet goes through her process, we're affected too. And this is, I've quoted things like, the big cosmic squeeze. We're getting energy coming in from the solar system or from the galactic sun, and Earth's frequencies raising higher. But I won't go into that too much more. What I really want to talk about is the precursor to what I experienced, and I did blog about this on Cosmic Gateway Facebook page, but I want to go into more detail just to talk and share with you a little bit. So I had to write down a few notes because linear time doesn't work well for me. It hasn't for a very long time, and I wanted to capture a few dreams and experiences that were precursor to what I went through. So if we go back, actually coming down to make this video this evening, I what was the TV now? I don't watch the TV often, but sometimes it's playing in the background. And there was a song playing, and the song was, the words were, "We're all in this together." And I had a little laugh to myself because the synchronicities have been off the chart recently with, numbers and words and songs. And we're all in this together is something that I have been saying for a very long time. So I thought that was it was very in sync with coming down and creating this video. So in terms of linear time, if we go back on the 22nd of February of 2018 this year, I had a dream about being by the beach and watching the waves come in, and I could see like a hazy grey sort of energy sort of floating around, almost like a tornado or cyclone type of thing. And as I was watching the waves come into the shore in the coastline and watching the energy come in, I was given a message saying that this energy coming will help you. It will help you all. And with that, I woke up. So that was going back in February, and that was pretty cool, but that was all I was given. We fast forward a couple of weeks. So this is 2 weeks ago today. It was on a Monday night. I started to have a lot of dizziness and vertigo, and I was sitting in this room, and I was getting hit by these bliss waves, I guess you could call them. I was starting to feel quite dizzy and lightheaded, and I've been guided to understand that as part of my light body going through an activation. And so I just sat with it as I usually do, and the frequency started to get higher and higher and higher. And I thought, oh dear, I don't think I'm going to sleep tonight. And I was really getting into this really beautiful, blissed out space, and, you know, giggling and laughing. And it's always nice to be in those high vibrations. And I thought, I'm just going to enjoy this. And as I went to bed that night, I did sleep and I had a New Earth dream. Now, this is not uncommon. I have been darting back and forth in New Earth dreams for quite some time now. Consciously for the last 2.5 years, unconsciously not knowing what it was, probably about 12 years. So I recognize it quite well now. And the message that came through was New Earth is almost ready for us. And, you know, during that dream space, I came back excitedly wanting to tell people, and there was a really beautiful buzz in the air as I was sharing this message with people in the dream space. What is really cool about that experience is that within the sequence of a few days, I had some clients come to me and some friends come to me all separately without knowing what I went through, telling me that they had very similar experiences. Coming to me and saying, I had a New Earth dream. Before I had that, I started to feel very dizzy. I felt lightheaded. I started to bliss out. And before I went to bed, and then went in and had a New Earth dream. So I thought that that was really quite amazing and quite significant. And I really like to watch from my own vantage point and what's happening, not only in my reality, but when it starts to line up and sync with other people's reality and they start to have the same thing. So that was pretty cool. So this is all in the lead up. So if I fast forward again to the 10th of March, I woke up, it was actually my birthday, and I was very excited to have a full and exciting day doing all the things that I love the most. And I got completely knocked out. I started having very intense physical symptoms happen, which is very much in line with my own personal, unique ascension journey. I had what was quite prominent was the chest pain. And I know, because I've had so many of these experiences, I know that that's a part of my heart chakra opening and widening. And I tend to tune in with my body and my higher self just to make sure that there's nothing wrong, of course. But, and I asked, you know, what is happening? And, you know, being that it was on my birthday, the message that I got was, you'll go through this until the time of your birth, and then everything will be fine. I laid down and I just started to breathe into my body and into the experience that I was having. And, you know, everything else was okay, but I said, really? Well, why such intense chest pains? And the message that I got was to open your heart space in preparation for what is to come, and that is important. I sort of dozed in and out of consciousness, into sleep state, dream state, and back and forth. Now, the time of my birth, I always joke about this, and I say that they got it wrong by 1 minute, but I was born at 10 past 11 a.m. So I like to joke and say that I was born at 11:11. Anyway, I started to come to, and I look at my phone and it's almost 11 a.m. and I thought to myself, I think I'm okay now. And sure enough, at, you know, coming to that time, I got up and I started walking around and I was perfectly back to normal. As I started to come to, I started feeling that dizziness again that I described before, which I know is when the energy starts to trickle in. It's probably important to note that while I was going through that, and I was going through some quite severe physical symptoms, ascension symptoms, I kind of asked at that point, I said, where's the energy support? Because I couldn't feel the energy flowing. And as soon as I put in that request or made that comment, I started to feel the strong waves of energy come through the top of my head and start to spread throughout my body. And that started to give me some relief. So if you do, or you're going through some intense, physical ascension symptoms and feeling a lot of tension within the body, always put in that request for that support and that energetical support, and really just breathe into it. Always check, with your internal guidance as to what's the best thing for you. And I can't stress that enough. That's very important. Always do what is right for you. So that was the experience that I had on the 10th. Now, this is all leading up to what I went through just this weekend gone, on the 17th. So the 17th, I could feel, I sort of woke up and I started to, as we do, we have our 3D triggers and the beautiful people in our life that, create situation scenarios and events that, trigger some pretty intense emotions. And I was going through that, and I sort of drove to the beach to help sort of alleviate some of the emotional stuff that was coming up for release. And as I was going through it, I could feel, this is something that arose 2 years ago for me. And when I look back at it now, it wasn't that it began 2 years ago. It was like, it was really fast tracked 2 years ago. And since then, it's probably one of the biggest things I've been working on and chipping away at. And all of a sudden, this awareness came in that, of course, it didn't start 2 years ago. This is something so ancient that's been locked within my DNA. Within my cellular structure, and this is one of the templates that I've come forth in this lifetime to shift. And of course, I'm a big believer as we shift our own internal stuff, it shifts and it helps the collective shift. So whatever we're working on at that specific time, going through our own internal, it shifts and moves a little bit within the collective field. And that's why the work that we do is so important. So as I was going through that, that pressure cooker type sensation when you have, such extreme emotions and mental, and it starts to present through the physical body. And I could feel the tension start to raise and work out through the body. It literally felt like this pressure cooker that I was put in through was starting to seep out into the physical body, and I could feel the tension. This went on for a couple of hours, and as I was starting to make my way back home, the pressure just sort of built up to this crescendo, and I just, burst into tears, and the floodgates opened, and it was like it had built up for this massive release. And as that release came out through the expression of, crying and tears, I felt a very lightheaded sensation, like something crack open, and the waves of energy started to flood in. So I quickly got home and came into my beautiful meditation room. As I came in, all I could do was just lie down, and as I laid down, I could sense such huge energy of stuff that's been held on for so long. When I talk so long, I'm talking beyond this lifetime of lower density energy just come flooding out through my heart space. And the only way I can describe, and that's a lot what I see in my work when I work with people doing energy sessions, I see this transformation happen by the energy releasing out through the body. And it almost looks like, it's sort of hard to describe, a very strong wind or, pushing debris out. And it was flooding out at such a rapid rate. And all I could do was lie there. I couldn't move my body. I was completely... had to lie still. And this went on for a couple of hours. And as I just allowed the process, once it had finished, I was aware of a very strong presence in the room that started to then help assist me to channel and hold more light. So just to recap, I went through a very extreme release emotionally, physically, mentally, and to make space to be able to hold more light. So as the light started to come back in through my heart center, I could start to feel my body start to lift in a higher vibration. While I was in that, I was dozing in and out, and quite often when I do that, messages come in and out. It's hard to grasp, once you come back to full awakened state. But the main message came through that, don't forget that after many years of practice and preparation, Jesus went through his ascension process within 3 days. And that message just kept repeating was, not necessarily about his process, but I guess it stems back to that. But for all of our process, so many of us have been doing so much work individually and collectively. Years and years of preparation have gone into this, lifetimes of preparation have gone into this, for this shift, for this event, or many, miniature events perhaps. We'll have to see how it unfolds. But after all that work and preparation, 3 days is all it took. Now, whether that happens individually or collective, I guess we have to wait and see. But it's really rang and resonated true. And I thought, this could happen very quickly, as some of us are hoping. So after that, I decided to spend the rest of the night in this beautiful room, my meditation healing room, as it really acts as a portal. And I think I've mentioned that before in my videos, that this space is like a portal. And it felt important to completely continue to anchor that light as it came in for the rest of that evening. And the weather had picked up. It was completely crazy here in Melbourne. We had really high winds, and I kept the door open and I looked out, and all I could see was this streams of energy coming in. I could see it with my physical eyes, like crackling and shifting and moving and dancing. As the wind picked up, I could feel and sense the energy and see it physically with my own eyes. And to me, it was like a goldeny, yellow type energy that was just buzzing around. And so the message was, this is your precursor to the event. This is going through this. As many of us are way showers, and quite often we will go through something prior to something much bigger, so that we can help and assist and share information, which is so important to help other people go through it. And the message that came through was, this is what some people could expect to go through. So I wanted to share that with you. That night continued on. I felt crackling in my body. It was extreme. And, I've been on this journey for a really long time, and I've never gone through something so extreme. It was really, I had to really stay centered and focused and in tune with what was going on within me. And just to know that it serves a greater purpose, and that to be the observer, I guess, to understand this process. I had extreme heat move through from the bottom of my feet all through my body, off and on throughout the night. Pretty much very similar to what you would experience in a Kundalini activation. All I can say, it was a mixed bag. And definitely some notable shifts after that occurrence. So, look, March is just halfway through. I think, a lot of people would agree with me that there's a lot ramping up and amping up, and the energy is increasing. The Schumann spiked at 150 around that time that I went through that experience, and I was aware of that at the time. The message came in, I was like, I bet you the Schumann's spiking, and only to see the next day that it had hit a pretty high, a very big high. So I guess my main, sharing this is, if you do, or when you go through something similar, sit still, be the observer, tune into your body and what your body needs. If you have to lie down, give your body what it needs. If you need to contact or be with loved ones, do that. Do whatever your intuition calls for you to do at that time. And I think it's really important to note that everyone is protected in this process. We signed up to this long before we incarnated here into this lifetime. So that please eliminate all fear. There's nothing to fear. This is probably one of the most exciting times to be alive. So nurture yourself, ground yourself, surround yourself with beautiful people, and get out your popcorn and enjoy and watch the show as it unfolds. Do what you can, serve however you feel. If you want to share this information with loved ones, do so. Everyone will go through whatever is relevant for their level of energy and frequency and to their level of consciousness. So there is nothing to fear. We will all we'll all go through what is relative for our own experience. And I think that's a really important message that I felt for a long time. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I plan to share a lot more on this topic and more of my experiences and other people's experiences too. So I have a few people that I would love to talk with on what they've gone through, especially in the last couple of weeks. If you feel at all inclined that you want to reach out and connect with me, please do so. I'd love to chat with you, and maybe we can do a video or two and share more about this. Because it helps, it helps people understand. So, sending you all big love.